Alright, so what I want to do with this video is I want to show how to take a Google site and actually use Microsoft PowerPoint in order to create a custom header for the site, a custom banner. As you may know, Google doesn't really have the best looking banners in the world for their websites. And there's an easy fix for this. I've been using PowerPoint for a long time. I no longer use PowerPoint. I use Paint.net. It offers some things that PowerPoint doesn't. So I'm labeling this as a basic tutorial because if you're a teacher and you've designed a classroom website, you know how to use PowerPoint and you can make it look a lot better by using a PowerPoint slide in maybe a way you've never thought of before. So let's go ahead and start this. So let's say I work at Rocky Mountain High School and this is what my school's website looks like. So I want my website to look a little bit more like this. So let's say this is my personal website for this high school. There's a few things that I can do. One, if I go into Manage Site, I can change the background to black. And then I go up to entire page here, background, color, black, save, go back here. Good. I can also change the header to black as well, but the problem with that would be I still don't have my logo like this has. Plus, if you look closely at this, you'll notice it's not an actual perfect black. There's kind of a gradient here. So instead of changing anything here as far as Google goes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a PowerPoint slide. But before I do that, there's a couple of things that I have to do. One, I have to disable seeing my site name. Otherwise, my site name is going to go above this. And then I'm going to move search this site. I'm probably going to put it on the top, but I'm not ruling out putting it along the bottom too. So let's go ahead and do that. We need to do both of these. The first one is in Manage Site. You go into Manage Site, and the very first, this is the general page. The very first thing you see is Show Site Name at top of pages next to your name. I'm actually going to unclick that. I click Save. Go ahead and navigate back to my site. Notice, good, I've eliminated that. I still have the problem with search this site. It's right in the middle. So now I'm going to go to Edit Site Layout. Click this. Now, do you notice that there's this alignment over here? We have middle, horizontal, standard. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do, well, I'll show you bottom. We're not going to stay with it, but yeah, standard and center. We're not even going to bother with that. So if I put it along the bottom here, that's one way to do this. This is what it looks like on the website. But I'm going to actually go ahead and put it along the top. We're very close to being ready to do this now. Go to top. Here we are. That looks much better, and it's going to be out of the way. If I look back at my schools thing, it's close to where that is there. This is going to be out of the way. I like that. So now I'm ready to go into PowerPoint. So I'm just going to pull PowerPoint up. This is PowerPoint 2016, but you can use any PowerPoint this way. It really doesn't matter. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make your slide into something that is about the size of a header slide. So going back to my thing here, my website, you'll notice that the header is fairly small. It's not too big. It's probably about 250 pixels wide, maybe. I'm just estimating, or 250 pixels tall, and probably on my laptop about 1400 pixels wide. So the very first thing I need to do is adjust my PowerPoint slide. I do that by going into Design, and I do Slide Size, and I'm going to go to Custom. Now, basically, an inch equals about 100 pixels. So if I go 20 inches, that's going to make my slide 2000 pixels wide. And then if I go 3 inches, it's going to make my slide 300 pixels tall. It's already on landscape. If it wasn't, I would switch it to landscape. When I click OK, and I choose the maximize because then it just seems to adjust what I do less. So now what I have basically is and you can see it best on the left here, I have a big, long, kind of skinny slide, and that's perfect. Now, obviously this is a white slide and I need it to look something like this. And again, this is a gradient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my PowerPoint. Now I go into Format Background, go to Gradient Fill. I've actually found, even though I use more advanced graphics programs now for when I design websites, I still, if I want a quick, good gradient, I'll go right to PowerPoint because it does an excellent job making gradients. So you can see here that I have kind of a, and this is just the default, it always starts here. I have this default setting, and it's kind of this weird light blue, white on the top. And so what I'm going to do, when I looked at this, whoops, minimize, let me see. I noticed that it's black on the top and black on the bottom and gray in the middle. So I'm going to go with something like that on my PowerPoint. Do you see these gradient stops? You can adjust these, but for right now, I click the first one over here. Notice it's got a color thing down here, and I click it, and I'm going to go with black. Right away you can see a change. I also know my bottom is going to be black, so I'm going to click that there. Now, maybe I'll pull these out a little. I'll click this one, and I'll do a dark gray. Click this one, maybe a shade lighter. I think I went the darkest next to it, so let's see. Is that any lighter? Yeah. And I can move this. And, you know, going back to the website, do you notice that it kind of has this line in the middle, just like our PowerPoint does, only the line is up a little further. So I'm going to move that and move that. Yeah, it's looking just a little light, so let's see, what do I have? I'm going to go with that, and then on this guy I'm going to go just a little bit darker. Okay, that's looking pretty much like I want. Again, I can always change this. It's pretty easy. Now I want to add the logo of the school. Usually logos are images that you can just pick up, and you'll be able to tell because if you right click on the logo, if it says save image as, you're set. So if I go save image as, and I see that it's got a thing here. Now notice this is PNG. If it says PNG, that means the outside of the image is transparent, which is just what we want. If it's a JPEG image, the outside of the image is not going to be transparent. I'm not going to save this because I've already saved it. But if this was a JPEG image, it'd probably come in a square, and I couldn't change the color of the square unless I manipulated that image. So if it's a PNG image, that means the outside is probably transparent. So I'm going to go back into my PowerPoint, and I'm going to insert the logo. Okay, let me find logos here. Logo Rocky Bear 3. Insert this. Here we are. Move this guy over here, and let's make him bigger. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, now we're going to do, we've got the title, which is going to be the name of my classroom website, and we've also got the subtitle, which is what I want to put for the school. I want to differentiate that this is my website, but I'm still part of this school. You'll notice that since this is your typical PowerPoint, title logo, it's centered. So I'm going to cruise over here. I'm not going to use Calibri. I think I will use something a little more old-fashioned because that's what they looked over there. I like this Baskerville Old Face, and I'm going to go with something much bigger, maybe 36. I'm going to click I like that shadow effect. I'm going to go bold. Since this is a black background, I'm going to go with white. Whoops. Mr. Treehall's classroom. Now I'm going to go down here. And did I have the, I just want to make sure. Did I have that? Yeah, I did. I checked. Maybe it looks better if I don't use bold. I think it does. So I can always increase the size too. Once again, I'm going to take this over to the left-hand side. I'm going to choose Baskerville Old Face. Since I did 36, I'll do 32 here. I'm going to, looks like it's already white. I'm going to use the shadow too. So Rocky, oh, didn't turn out white. That's okay. As I look at this, it feels like I should move this up a little, so I'm going to scrunch this just to make it easier to maneuver. Now I'm going to move this up here. This is another thing I kind of like about PowerPoint. It gives those little lines, and it really helps you to line things up. A lot of people don't realize PowerPoint's quite a nice little simple image editor. And as I look at this, I also think, I don't know, that's awful big for this one, so I'm gonna shrink this a bit. It's almost the same size as my classroom name, so that looks a little better. And let's bring it up a bit. There we are. This looks pretty good. Okay, so now I basically have a logo that's gonna kind of match my schools. What I need to see next is how well it's gonna fit my website. So if you're gonna do stuff with PowerPoint, a lot of people don't realize that you can save PowerPoint slides as images, and that's the key to doing this, because obviously you can't just plug a PowerPoint slide into your thing, but you also, into your website, you also want to save it as a PowerPoint first. So I'm going to save as, let's see, add a place or browse. I'm going to put this in logos where everything else was. Okay, and I'm going to put Rocky Mountain header. Did you notice I put no space in this? I know a long time ago that I would use images in my header, and if I had spaces in them, sometimes that would mess things up in Google Sites. I don't know if they've fixed that yet or not, but I'm just going to have no space here. So I'm going to save this first as a PowerPoint. The reason I'm saving it as a PowerPoint is so I can go back and edit it as I want. Next, I choose Save As. And this time I'm going to save it as a PNG. So I'm in logos. Instead of saving it as a PowerPoint, PNG just looks a little bit better than, so I'm going to click save, and it should say, yes, it always says when you do this, do you want to save all slides or just this one? If you saved a huge, let's say a 20 slide PowerPoint this way, if you chose all slides, it would actually make a folder, and each slide would be its own image. So I'm just going to say just this one. It wouldn't matter on this because there's only one slide, but I just get into the habit of doing this. Now let's check to see what it looks like on the website. So let's go down here, bring the website up. Oh, we were back on our. Now I'm going to go into Manage Site. And I want to go Themes, Colors, Fonts. Click Site Header. It's got to pull up the preview. It moves this. So, that part drives me crazy. I want background, and this is going to be an image. So I'm going to click this. Go into Logos. And notice it pulls up both the PowerPoint and the PNG. If I tried to save it as a PowerPoint, it would just say we don't recognize this file format. Something went wrong, so I just go right to the PNG. Click Open. Now it's going to load this in. It shouldn't be a huge file. It's not too big. And we're going to none repeat. Now, by the way, if this works perfect your first try, you're doing much better than I ever do. It never works perfect the first try. It also doesn't look exactly the same as it's going to look down here. So you always want to click Save and then go back to your site. Okay, so couple things. It's awful big. That was a lot bigger than I wanted it to be. And then the logo is too big. One of the things that I didn't even mention, but when we did this, we made the slide a lot wider than it needs to be. If you look at this image right here on the screen, this is probably 1300 pixels wide. We made ours 2000 pixels wide. Unfortunately, in Google Sites, on the header image, you don't have the option of stretching it to fit the screen, and so you always want to make these very, very wide and put everything over on the left, and things will look the best. Some people have freakishly large screens, and if you make this too narrow, I would recommend 2000 is the minimum. You might even want to go 3000 pixels or 30 inches is the minimum. So you want to make this much, much, much wider than you ever need it. And if you do that, everything is going to work well. If you don't, then what can happen is your website can be loaded on a screen that's got a large screen, and you're going to see the end of it, and it's not going to look good. So anyway, that is everything is a little too big. So here's what we're going to do. We go back into the PowerPoint to fix this. I'm going to shrink this guy quite a bit. Move this over. And probably easiest to, there's a couple different ways I can shrink this. I can shrink the box, but instead of doing that, I'm going to actually go with this. The actual size of the text. That is going to produce a better image. Move this back up here. And let's shrink the size of this text. Okay, good. Now, I'm not going to save this as a PowerPoint again. I've already got one version. I'm just going to go straight to Save As, and I'm going to save as a PNG. Yes, I know. Just this one. Now let's go back to the website. Go into Manage Site. Back to site header. Alrighty. Be patient and wait for that to load up, because you can sometimes screw up your site by not waiting and clicking too soon. Going back to this. Okay, this is looking closer to what I like, and so I'm gonna leave it alone. When I look at it, it looks pretty close to what they have. As you can see, we could probably play around with this more and more and make it look more and more like this, but I'm actually going to show you a different feature because I think this is kind of cool. So as I look at this, I want to see where this home is. We're going to change colors on that, but do you notice that we've got like a little bar here, and we've got a little defining line, and it's pure black and it's not part of the gradient? I'm going to do that to my header too. So where I put the bar is going to matter. I need to kind of align this by eye, so I need to see that's fairly below. I want it just a little bit above home. So as I look at my PowerPoint, okay, so watch what we do here. I go back to my PowerPoint. I click the rectangle. I'm going to make a shape, and I'm going to start it. Let's make this a little bit bigger, just to make things easier to see. I'm going to start it over here, probably about right there. I'm not too worried about the bottom of this because no one's ever going to see it. I go to Shape Fill, and I'm just going to make this pure black. I go to Shape Outline. I noticed theirs was kind of a light gray, so let's make it a little darker. I like that. And let's see, Shape Outline, did it say how much it weighed? I want it just 1 point. Yep, that's it. So that's good. I'll click Enter. We're good here. Go back to this. Once again, I just leave the PowerPoint the way it is. I'm not resaving the PowerPoint, but I am going to save it as a PNG. So I go back to PNG here, replace my old PNG, click Save. Yep, we know that. And seeing this, when you do these, it's just a lot of trial and error. You just keep playing around until it looks the way you want it to. So now I go up to here, go back to site header, wait for it to load up. There. Lovely. Okay. Go to site header. Go back to image. Rocky Mountain PNG. I should mention, when you do this, you don't want to let it repeat. A lot of times you won't see it if it repeats, but you would if you saw it on a different screen. So you always want to choose no repeat. And again, this is a preview window, but it's not perfect. So this kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. You always want to click Save, go back to this. Stay on page wait for it to save. There we are. Now we get into here. Now, this looks pretty good because we're getting close to where this is, but do you notice that I've got very little space down here and I've got lots of space up there? We're going to change the color of that in a second too. There's a really easy way to fix this that doesn't involve me going back to my PowerPoint. One way would be going back to my PowerPoint, which I could do, and moving that bar just a little bit down. Here's another way that I could do this that kind of shows you, that sometimes you have to play around with when you do this. You go to Edit Site Layout, and what I want to do is I want to make this, I think I want to make it a little smaller. So let's go to 160. I hope I didn't get that just the opposite. I think that what that's going to do is going to shrink down. Yep, that's exactly what it did. Perfect. I think that I might have done it first try. Okay, press close. Look at that. Do you see how we got that really nice here? Just really quick because it's driving me crazy. Going to go back to Manage Site and Themes, Colors, Fonts. Go back to Horizontal Nav. Come on, let it click. Okay, text. We will go to color, white, and selected text. We're just for right now, we'll go to color white also, just because that looks so much better that way. Alright, you see that looks so much nicer. Now one last little trick that I want to show you before we go, just because this is kind of cool. So now I've got this much nicer looking website header that looks so much better than the Google header ever seems to look, and it kind of matches my, again, we could really play around until it matches this a lot better, but we're not going to put all this stuff up here in ever, or really any of these, but we could if we wanted, but we just want to match the look. I think mine ends up being a little bit lighter than theirs, and now the gradient's all off because in truth this header stretches below down, but you kind of get the idea, and you can really do any PowerPoint you want and just make it the way you want. And what's nice is if you're a teacher, you know how to use PowerPoint. One last little trick here, because I think this is important. This doesn't just work in headers. It works anywhere where you can use an image in Google Slides. Now we've got a black background on this site. I think a gradient background would look just a little bit better. So we go back to this. Now I've already saved this. I guess I should save this as a PowerPoint. So really quick, click Save. The default setting is going to be PowerPoint. So I've just saved this in case I want to go back and edit this and mess around with it again. I'm just going to do something else here. Gonna delete that. We have just a basic generic gradient at this point. Now I'm going to go back to Design, and I'm going to go to Slide Size, Custom Slide Size. Now remember we made this 3 inches. Let's go with 20 inches. Yeah, maximize. That sounds good. Okay, pretty much here. Now what we're going to do, because this is a much bigger image, I'm going to save this as a JPEG instead of a PNG. You might lose just a hair quality if you save it JPEG, but it'll be easier on your website. So now, and then instead of header, I'm going to give it a different title. Background. Save as JPEG. Just this one. Now let's go back to my website. I go to Manage Site here. I think this may look worse, I don't know, but I think it's going to look better. Go to Themes, Colors, and Fonts. I go to Entire Page. Let's click on that. Good. Go to Background. Now, right now we have a black colored background. We are not using any image, but now we're going to click Image. And Rocky Mountain Background JPEG. Click Open. Now, because this is such a huge image, it's 2,000 pixels wide, it's 2,000 pixels tall, this is as big as a pretty large TV, you don't need any repeat options. You can also use background image as a little image that repeats itself over and over, but we're not going to repeat at all. Potentially I could make a page that was too long for this, but here's how you can fix this. You click stretch to cover, and no matter how large your page ends up being, your image is okay. It's the right size. So I click stretch to cover. I click save. Now I go back to this, and let's take a look at how this looks. You know, it's almost the same, but if you look closely, we have this nice little gradient. It's just a cool little effect there. And we've done all this, you know, our website looks a million times better than it did before, and all we've been using is PowerPoint, which is a tool that as I said before, most teachers are really familiar with. I hope the video didn't run too long, and even more so, I hope that this video helped you. Now, I put all of these videos in my virtual classroom workshop. I have a workshop forum, and I'll put the link for this site in the description of the video. If there is something on Google Sites that you are struggling with, you can click on this forum and you can put it in here. Anybody can enter something in here, and I will come in and I will either answer your question as an email, or maybe that's a good subject for a video. I'm trying to put together a series of basic and advanced videos, so either way, if you have something you want covered, let me know and I will try to cover that. Trying to get out of here. All right, there we go.